So we had to change locations because you don't know how to not hit the table.
I'm sorry I'm so demonstrative.
I literally had someone reach out and said, as someone who listens to podcasts with headphones on, please ask Steve to stop hitting the table.
Is this where we're going to just air our grievances about things we don't like?
Question I have as far as any of those top professions, is it ever actually enough?
You have to decide for yourself. No one else can tell you that. What your metric is faith.
Hitting the table?
You said I hit the table too much. I got to stop doing that.
Welcome to the You Need to Listen podcast. I am Kristin Brey. He is Steve Scaffidi. And this is episode
14.
So this one's going to be a little bit more philosophical,
Touchy-feely?
personal, emotional.
I might make you cry in this
Maybe.
one. Yeah. I'm going to try to anyway.
So it's making all the rounds. I don't know exactly where he was doing this press conference.
I would say at a golf tournament.
But yeah, probably. Scottie Scheffler
press.
had kind of like a 5-minute speech on what accomplishing being one of the best, if not the best golfer in the world means. And in fact, how little it actually means. And it kind of brought up this question I have as far as any of those top professions, is it ever actually enough, or does fulfillment need to come from something deeper? So let's just first listen to the clip.
Is it great to be able to win tournaments and to accomplish the things I have in the game of golf? Yeah. I mean, it brings tears to my eyes just to think about, because I've literally worked my entire life to become good at this sport, and to have that kind of sense of accomplishment, I think is a pretty cool feeling. You know, to get to live out your dreams is very special. But at the end of the day, it's like, I'm not out here to inspire the next generation of golfers. I'm not here to inspire somebody else to be the best player in the world, because what's the point? You know, this is not a fulfilling life. It's fulfilling from the sense of accomplishment, but it's not fulfilling from a sense of like the deepest, places of your heart. You know, there's a lot of people that make it to what they thought was going to fulfill them in life, and then you get there and all of a sudden you get to number one in the world, and then they're like, what's the point? Showing up at the Masters every year, it's like, why do I want to win this golf tournament so badly? Why do I want to win the Open Championship so badly? I don't know, because if I win, it's going to be awesome for about 2 minutes. And then we're going to get to the next week, and it's going to be like, hey, you won 2 majors this year. How important is it for you to win the FedEx Cup playoffs? And it's just like, we're back here again, That's why I talk about families being my priority, because it really is. I'm blessed to be able to come out here and play golf, but if my golf ever started affecting my home life, or it ever affected the relationship I have with my wife or with my son, that's going to be the last day that I play out here for a living.
What do you think about that, Steve?
I mean, he's a 3-time major winner and number one golfer in the world, but he's still sort of sorting things out. He's a newer dad, a young child. He's a guy that's trying to sort out his life. I can tell you, as someone who's an older individual, 66, it takes forever to figure it out, and sometimes you never get there. And I'm still figuring things out. I still discover things about myself. I still am emotional at times when I wouldn't have been emotional about the same conversation 20 years ago.
Were you when you were in your 20s or 30s, would you describe yourself as ambitious?
Yeah. I mean, I had, I was kind of lost until I was 25.
That's I would say most people
Yeah.
until they're 25.
Yeah. I mean,
I've changed careers a lot, so you're preaching to the choir.
Maybe not lost, but just I was more interested in fun and non-serious things than serious things. And then I got engaged, I got married, had a child, started a new career with a company I worked with for 28 years before I retired in the early 2000s. I guess I was probably like him.
But was there something that you had in mind that you were chasing of like, once I achieve this, I'll feel complete? Or because I think that's like some of the people who are super hyper ambitious, whether it's in the entertainment field, in the sports field, the business world, and that there is a drive, I think, with a lot of ambitious people that comes from, is like your psychoanalyst friends might say, like, I'll feel complete when. And then the reality becomes, for a lot of those people, some of us never reach that kind of success, but you get there, and whatever hole you were trying to fill still isn't filled. And so was there anything like for you that you were ever chasing that you're like, once I get it, I will feel better?
No. Mine would have just been stability and making a decent living. I think people are wired differently. like superstar athletes, and I would put him in that group. Even Tom Brady. Tom Brady's chasing his next thing, right? Or maybe even his next girlfriend. He's always like in pursuit. The guy won how many Super Bowls? Yet now he's going to be the best broadcaster ever. I think
he's definitely not going to be the best broadcaster
no, he's
ever.
Not. Matter of fact, he bores my brains out. But I mean, he's making $100 million doing it. So if you measure it by financial success,
but that's not
he's the best.
We're measuring it by what
personal
fulfillment of what. And you're right. There's probably some people, depending on what motivates you, and how the depth of your personality. Because I'm sure there's some people who are very shallow who are like, yeah, this is great. But I think that happens more often than you think. Like I was trying to find the Jim Carrey quote, but he talks about this a lot. Jim Carrey, who at one point was the first actor to ever make $20 million per movie, and he just thought if he would be loved enough by the public or be rich enough or whatever. And it's like ultimately the fulfillment has to come from something else that actually isn't tied to. Is any of it tied to your career, or is it always just chasing the next high?
I don't think so. Ben Affleck's talked about this as well. You can have this incredible movie career, but the rest of your life can be in shambles. And he struggled with addiction. He struggled obviously with his marriage and relationships. There's no perfect formula for this stuff. And I think you're hearing from Scottie Scheffler and others that like, what is the mix that makes sense for me? Now I've read enough about Scottie Scheffler and heard enough from him that I know he's a person of extreme faith. Mm-hmm. He is very much committed to his faith.
Hitting the table.
One of our commenters said I hit the table too much. I got to stop doing that. But that's the passion that I bring to the podcast. By the way, we never set up the podcast. It's You Need to Listen podcast.
I did set it up.
Oh, did you set it up?
I did.
I totally spaced that off.
Okay.
I was so fixated on myself and what I was going to say. Apologies, Kristin Brey, my fabulous teammate here on the podcast. I think there's just this reckoning. What I give Scottie Scheffler credit for, I don't know how old he is. Did you catch his age? 28 years old. And he's
that's
already
a pretty mature stance to have at 28.
The dude is figuring it out already.
Because I feel like that's only something in the last couple of years. Because I would say people would describe me as ambitious.
Yeah. Driven.
Would you describe me
Absolutely,
as ambitious?
Yeah. Well, you have 18 jobs.
And
so.
I think I go back and forth on this a lot of like, what are you trying, whether it's with the content stuff in the media world, and there's always, especially in the media world, I mean, another next big thing, right? Mm-hmm. It's like I don't think my goal is to have like be Rachel Maddow anymore because
was it?
I think at one point when I was younger, I think when I was 28, granted I was working in tech and not pursuing this. Like there was, especially living in Silicon Valley and feeling like you needed to be at the big company or doing the big thing or making your mark in the world or having this resume or accomplishments to look back at and be like, look what I did. And I don't know if that's just all ego.
Partly, yes, but also you could have all the things in your toolbox, your personal toolbox that would allow you to be the next Rachel Maddow, and it may not happen. It's not all under your control.
No,
so
that's
much
why I
of that
quit
is luck. Yeah, acting.
That's why
for
I
you.
quit acting when I was out there at 16 because I realized that I actually did realize at a pretty young age. At like 22, I had an agent, I had a manager, I booked some jobs, and I started to realize that in reality, you could have all the talent in the world, and I think I was a decent actress, but like you could be a really talented actor. And you still needed so many people to say yes. You needed a casting director to say yes to a callback. You needed producers and the director to say yes to you casting in the TV show or in the movie. But then you also need the thing that you're casted in to be successful, which is like TV and movies is not an actor's medium. Like it's so much more of a director's medium. And then how the film gets marketed and how the show, what lineup the show is on. If you, this was before we had Netflix and everything. But like the amount of things that had to go right that were out of your control in order to have a successful acting career, I was like, I'm going to go to college. Never mind. But it's probably arguing that for most things, as far as things that are outside of your control when it comes to your own success.
Whenever you're talking about aspirations, like you said Rachel Maddow, and I would have said, I don't know, pick someone that does radio, not Rush Limbaugh because he was way too extreme for my personal political taste. But at that level, it's unrealistic, first off. And whatever you're chasing, whatever ideal in whatever field you're talking about, you want their life? Golf. Let's stick with the golf. Let's stick with the golf example. You want Tiger Woods' life? almost killed himself in a car wreck, lost his marriage because he was screwing around with strippers. You want that life? Obviously, he's got a lot of money, but as most people know, money's not the only thing. Ben Affleck in acting, I talked about him. Miserable addiction problems, relationship problems. So what are you aspiring to? I think what Scottie Scheffler is nailing here is I got to figure it out in my own little world here. And if golf for him, and he's the best at it in the world, isn't doing it, then he's got to step back. And at 28 or whatever he is, that is like the most refreshing thing I've heard from an athlete in a long time. And oh, by the way, that might be part of the reason he's as good as he is, because he's already got that mind thing working towards sort of that calm.
A bigger picture.
Yeah, that everybody aspires to. That's the interesting thing about the Scottie Scheffler piece. I think he's sort of sorting it out. What I love about it, he did it publicly.
Oh, yeah.
At a tournament. He said it out loud. Some people would say, God, he seems rather ungrateful that he's the best. No, he's celebrating that, but also understanding all the other stuff that's swirling around him.
Here's just something that popped in my head. Do you think he can say that at the level he's at compared to any other athlete who plays on a team sport? Because, like, if Giannis or Halliburton or any of these guys who is working on a team and the team's goal is to win a championship and to be great, if one of them were to do this kind of press conference, is it seen as a totally different thing because it's a difference between an individual and a team sport? Or do you think it still gets that same kind of like, oh, look at how well-rounded and big picture you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, don't we see some of that from Giannis Antetokounmpo? I mean, he
said that great quote about how sports it's never like a wasted season or whatever when he lost what's Eric Nehm asked him that question, and he had that great answer as far as because you keep going. Was this season a failure?
Now, there are other athletes, I can't think of one off the top of my head, who also equate winning a Super Bowl or a World Series title or whatever team sport award there is, that it is a failure. And that, I think that plagues some people's psyche for the rest of their lives.
You watched the Aaron Rodgers documentary.
Yeah.
I didn't want to spend my time watching that. But doesn't he kind of talk about this? And this is kind of why he's on this like ayahuasca dark retreat like search, is because he kept accomplishing the things that he's always set out to accomplish and still was feeling empty.
He was never satisfied.
Yeah.
And I think, and I've said this, so he, early on in his career, I think he was 26, he already won a Super Bowl. He had accomplished that, but that wasn't good enough. And I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said in the documentary that winning wasn't the only thing. And then after that, if you remember as a Packers fan, he had lots of seasons of great individual performance, but the team failed in the biggest settings. I think they had 5 conference championships. They lost all of them.
So many
Yes,
playoffs.
so much tragedy as a Packers fan. But I think it's showing that even at the high level that Aaron Rodgers plays at as a quarterback, he still had these internal demons that he wasn't happy. And he's another guy, relationships. I mean, they're famous, right? Danica Patrick, Olivia Munn. He probably had several other actresses.
Shailene Woodley,
yeah.
No idea who this woman is that he apparently married.
Yeah, and you sent out a clever meme the other day where he's apparently marrying himself, which would not surprise me when you're talking about Aaron Rodgers. He loves himself. But inside, as you watch this documentary unfold, it's kind of pretty clear he's struggling with that. And again, this is an extreme talent, one of the best that's ever played quarterback in the NFL, and he hasn't figured it out. That's what's cool about the Scottie Scheffler stuff.
So I feel like, does it come back? I think I started my own thought process around this for myself, as far as I feel like now becoming a mom, liking my job, and this balance between wanting to continue to be successful, but like thinking differently about at what cost. Like, I think especially before being a mom, the amount I would like work into the night, and even being married and having a happy marriage of like being more obsessed with work at, another piece of content that is very fleeting, whether it's the show or the podcast or a TikTok video, and seeing how many clicks it gets or how many followers you have, like all these like vanity metrics ultimately. And I still, because that's my job, right? I can't just completely abandon it now. But I do feel like a different sense of what is actual fulfillment, because in the same way, on a much smaller scale, winning a golf tournament versus like having a video that does really well, having a hit show, but like how long does that fulfillment last for versus the relationships in your life. And so do you feel like that is the core lesson that a lot of us end up learning, is how much more important relationships are than the success in your career?
I think I learned my lesson early on. My wife sort of set me on the straight and narrow path to sort of figure things out. She helped me for the one and only job interview I really had was with the Nielsen Company, real job interview. Because when I was mayor, he got elected, and when I started radio, they just asked me to do it. I didn't fill out anything. But she sort of reassessed my life with me. And so that I had an early introduction to why listening better, closer to people around you probably is part of this. And I think probably Scottie Scheffler is doing the same thing. Having good family, we all want that. You know, it's challenged by a lot of things, right? Relationships are always challenging. Politics is now impacting all of the relationships we have. So there's so many outside influences, external influences that are shaping all that. But if you can sort of sit here today and say, you know what? My life's not so bad. Whatever metric you use, whether it's money, whether it's clicks for you who's so active on social media and all those platforms, you have to decide for yourself. No one else can tell you that, what your metric is and what satisfies your number or your feeling that this is what I need, this is what I got to get to, and this is what I appreciate. And it's different for everybody. And some people are wired differently, as I started talking about before. It's just, there's no formula for success. But I think you hit on a key one. Family is so important in that. And other people would argue faith is also woven in. And for Scottie Scheffler, that is a big part of his existence. This is a dude that, remember the story? It was the Masters, I believe, a few years ago. He got arrested.
I thought that was the same guy.
He got arrested going to golf at the Masters, and he shook it off. It's like, Jesus, this guy he's comfortable with his own skin while still trying to figure things out. It was I'm glad you brought this up and that clip up, because it's a perfect example of what I think most people aspire to. Be the best you can be, whatever that is, golf or financial world or radio, whatever, which is what we do, or social media. But then also having all the other pieces, whether it's you being a young mom, whether it's me being a grandparent to 4 great grandkids who I love more than my own damn kids on occasion. That figuring that shit out is such a big part of this. And I think so much of the relationship question, that we'll probably talk more about this on the show and on future podcasts, just the difficulty that people are having just communicating with each other, not just talking, not just, whatever texting is, or, direct messaging or dating services that are all done like on your smartphone now, but actually having real conversations. Sorting that shit out is so hard now. And, we have to figure that out. I'm glad that Scottie Scheffler stood up, or in his case, sat there and talked to the media on a serious question versus, man, you had a bogey on number 5. What the hell happened here? It's like real conversation, which, again, I think is linked to the fact that somebody that can perform at the highest level with that kind of pressure, individual sports is like insane. When you have teammates, they pick up some of your slack. When you're an individual sport, like, say, a tennis player at Wimbledon, shit, it's all on you. Mm-hmm. You got to do it. There's no hiding. Everybody sees every movement you make, every expression you have. Same thing in golf, man. They're watching you hit a little golf ball to a very specific spot, yards ahead of you. All the focus is on you, but yet he still somehow musters the courage and the talent and the psyche to say, I can do this. And he does it at a high level. It's a freaking tremendous story. I edited myself. Did you see that? Yeah.
Here's good. A different question. Why do you think it takes more silence to concentrate on hitting a tiny ball that is standing still versus a 90 miles per hour baseball?
I think it's more tradition than anything else, because there are tournaments now in the professional golf that have now added noise. I think it's the Waste Management Open, if that's what it's still called, where they have bleachers and people are yelling shit at the golfers.
Okay.
So that's sort of evolving.
But I would imagine it's harder to hit a baseball than it is a golf ball.
That's a good question.
To hit it?
I played baseball and I played golf. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they're different, but they're not that dissimilar. You're still hitting
everyone
something.
Expects you to hit
the baseball and
the golf ball.
The golf ball, yeah, because it's laying there.
Yeah.
It is sort of a wild sport where the damn thing's just laying there. Just hit it straight. You're a professional golfer, but yet they hit sometimes the worst shots you've ever seen, like all of us hackers.
Yeah. Happens.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts on life and fulfillment? I thought you said you were going to make me cry.
I might make you cry in this
Maybe.
one. Yeah. I didn't make you cry today.
You did not make me cry today.
No, I know I didn't.
I thought you were going to sell it. You said some
Maybe I didn't do my job today. Maybe
emotional
I need to be better.
story. Open your heart to me.
Well, I sort of went into it when I was talking about Kathy because I was like goofing around and drinking too much, hanging out at the bars with my buddies, playing softball 4 nights a week because I love playing softball and I was good at it and I didn't get paid for it. I just did it and closing the bars. Well, she wasn't doing that. So there was like, she sort of set me straight. And when anybody, your spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend, father, whatever, can sort of like point you in the right direction, that's a life skill that's not everybody can do. And she was that for me. Yeah, I'm sure you've had them. Like your mom is a great inspiration too. Your dad's a great inspiration. Who's your like? Do you have a mentor? Someone mentor you?
I don't really have a mentor, but I feel like my mom, especially because it was just her birthday.
Happy birthday, Deb, by the way.
I think of her as like the inverse of all this because I would say this is a person who, it's not like she's done. Like the resume is not. She was an occupational therapist, but like she quit when we were a kid.
Here's what's number one on her resume: raising a difficult child, Kristin Brey.
But
that's
but that's what I mean. Like this is someone who, unless she outlives everybody, like she will have thousands of people potentially at her funeral, right? Because like this is someone who everything she does and everyone she meets, like she just cares about, and she shows up in that way.
Yeah,
and how. That is like, and she does it in a way that she remembers things I forget.
What's her magic? What's her magic?
She's just incredibly thoughtful. Like she's just incredibly as far as like she loves to show her love through like cooking and finding the right gift and like knowing when your birthday is and sending a card and just like it's just things like that where she's just incredibly thoughtful. I think in a world where, especially at my age and younger, like we're still kind of into ourselves and not always into the inconvenience of showing up for other people. And she does that in spades. And so I think that's what I think back of like the fulfillment of relationships and showing up for people and then in turn them showing up for you.
We're lucky. We have great parents. Mm-hmm. Not everybody has that, and that certainly makes the process easier if there's any such thing as an easy process in life now because there's so much shit bombarding us. Before we get out of here, if you have an idea for a future topic, you just want to send us a note. How much you love Kristin, how much you're mad at me for pounding. I tried to resist after you scolded me one time.
You only did it once, I think, this time.
Yeah, but I'm a passionate person. You know
you're
this.
Italian.
I'm Italian, Sicilian to be specific. I like to use my hands, and I felt like I restrained myself. But if you have any feedback or comment on this podcast, which is literally called You Need to Listen for a specific reason, because we think, you and I, Kristin Brey, Steve Scaffidi, you should listen to this podcast every 2 weeks because we try to touch on things that maybe aren't discussed in the way that we discuss them. Is that the right way to put it?
That's fair.
Yeah.
And we're going to get your psychoanalyst friends on here to psychoanalyze us.
So that's an idea.
You're going to learn more about yourself,
I have
Steve.
2 friends that are psychiatrists, high-level psychiatrists who want to psychoanalyze me either on the podcast or on air. And not just me, you.
I know.
You're game for that.
I'm much more open to it than I think you are.
I have strong fear about that idea. We'll see, Dennis and John, if that actually happens at some point because I know listen to the podcast. So, Kristin Brey, what's your email address? KBREY@goodkarmabrands.com.
And
I'm Steve.Scaffidi, 2 F's, 1 D at WTMJ.com. Love the feedback. Keep it coming. We're going to do a lot more interesting topics as this thing evolves. And always love the feedback because it's so interesting. And I appreciate, even when you yell at me or scold me, that you're trying to make me better. So you make me smarter. I say that all the time. You need to listen.
You need to listen.
And point taken.
See you next time.